I don't quite agree with the conventional business school, university definition of success. There's a single definition of success. Look at yourself in a mirror in the evening and wonder if you disappoint the person you were at 18, right before people get corrupted by life. Let him or her be the only judge. Not your reputation, not your wealth, not your standing in a community, not the decorations on your lapel. If you do not feel ashamed, then you are successful. All other definitions of success are modern constructions, fragile modern constructions. The ancient Greeks' definition of success was to have had a heroic death. But as we live in a less martial society, we can adapt our definition of success as having taken a heroic route for the benefits of the collective, as narrowly or broadly defined as you want, so long as it's someone else. For example, secret societies have the rule of uomo d'onore. You're as good as what you do to other members. So virtue is inseparable from courage. So you had to take some risks, personal, financial, whatever, for the sake of others. That's success. That's honor. It can be helping the local municipality, for example. I'm giving a hint here. But the more micro, the less abstract, the better. So success requires absence of fragility. I've seen billionaires terrified of journalists, wealthy people who felt crushed because their brother-in-law got very rich, academics with Nobel who were scared of comments on the web. The higher you go, the worse the fall. For almost all people I've met, external, not internal, success came with an increase in fragility and a heightened state of insecurity. The worst are those former something types with 4-page CVs who, after leaving office and addicted to the attention of servile bureaucrats, find themselves discarded. It's as if you went home one evening to discover that someone suddenly emptied your house of all its furniture. Self-respect, on the other hand, is robust. That's the approach of the Stoic school. I've seen robust people in my village, Amiens, who were proud of being, local citizens, liked by the community. They wake up happy and go to bed happy. Or Russian mathematicians who, during the difficult post-Soviet period, were proud of making $200 a month and did work that was appreciated by 20 people and considered that showing one's decorations or accepting awards, that was a sign of weakness and a lack of confidence in one's own contribution. And believe it or not, some wealthy people are robust, but you just don't hear about them because they're not socialized. They live next door and they drink Araq Baladi, not Veuve Clicquot. I was lucky to have a background closer to that of a classical Mediterranean or a medieval European before universities became commoditized. My parents had an account with Librairie Antoine in Bab Idris at the time, and a big library, and they bought a lot of books, but they didn't read the books, so they needed someone to read the books. So I was the person, who did the job, so they were happy with that. So I started valuing erudition over other attributes. But at the same time, I realized that what you learn in school is very narrow, so it's a waste of time to focus too much on school. I wanted initially to become a writer, and really, if your knowledge is limited to what happens in what you study in a baccalaureate, Lebanese baccalaureate, you're not going to go anywhere. So you need to be broader, and it takes time. So I skipped school most days, but read voraciously. And later, I find myself unable to concentrate on subjects that others imposed on me. So I separated schools for credentials from schools for one's own edification. I accidentally discovered probability theory and became obsessed with it. But as I said, it did not come from lofty philosophizing or scientific hunger, none of that. It was just the thrills and hormonal flush one gets while taking risks. A friend told me about complex derivatives, and I decided to make a career in them. It was a combination of trading and complex mathematics. The field was new and uncharted, and they were very, very difficult mathematically. So greed and fear were my teachers. So when there's the fire, you run very fast. So that was my method. I discovered that I hated fame. I hated famous people. I hated caviar. I hate champagne, complicated food, expensive wine, and mostly people who comment on wine. All right. So I like meze with local arak baladi. That's what I drink in New York. Okay. And sabidish, squid ink. Okay. Not complicated things. Instead of having my preferences dictated by norms of magazines for rich people. So my preferences became obvious to me one day when I was having dinner. I had dinner in a Michelin 3-star restaurant with complicated people, complicated wine and small complicated dishes. And after that, I went to Nick's Pizza and ate $6.95, the big thing of pizza for $6.95, and haven't had a single Michelin meal since, or anything with complex names or complex stuff. I'm particularly allergic to people who belong to the IAND, International Association of Name Droppers. If I had to relive my life, I'd be even more stubborn and more uncompromising than I have ever been. Okay, so let me tell you what I think is robust because I practice it. Number one, do not read newspapers. So do not follow the news in any way or form. To be convinced, go to the library and try to read last year's newspaper. Okay, and that will convince you. You should go from the news to the papers, not from a paper to more papers. If something is nonsense, you say it, and you say it out loud. You'll be harmed a little bit, but it'll be anti-fragile. In the long run, people who need to trust you will trust you. When I was still an obscure author, I walked out of a studio, Bloomberg Radio, because the interviewers they were saying nonsense, so I just walked out. People told me, you'll never have any coverage by Bloomberg ever again. I said, okay. 2 years later, they had a cover story on me. So if you see nonsense, say it and say it loud. Number one, treat the doorman with a lot of respect, okay, more than if you were the boss. The boss can go down, not the doorman. If something is boring, avoid it. Except, of course, taxes and visits to your mother-in-law. Okay, other than these, avoid everything boring. And there are a lot of rules in my book, so I'm going to end up with no-nos. The things to avoid completely. Muscles without strength. Friendship without trust. Opinion without risk. Change without aesthetics. Age without values. Food without nourishment. Power without fairness. Facts without rigor. Degrees without erudition. Militarism without fortitude. Progress without civilization. Complication without depth. Fluency without content. And most of all, religion without tolerance. Thank you.